Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be discussing about relying on Hashem. Do we rely on Hashem? How do we rely on Hashem? How do we rely? Do we rely on ourselves? Do we rely on other people? And, it's almost as if every single day, everything that happens, everything we do, we're relying on other people. So, for example, when you're crossing the street, you're relying that the people that are stopped at the stoplight are not going to run you over, right? Because they're hitting the brake and they could just let go of the brake and God forbid something bad can happen. So you're relying on those people, even though you don't even know them. We rely on, making sure that the food that we eat is healthy, is not poisonous. We rely on the electricity of our homes and the people that are making sure to keep those electricity poles running are running without a flaw. And we rely on everything. And so we have to constantly be reminded that, we should only be relying ultimately in Hashem, in God. And to do this is very difficult because sometimes we say, well, what do you mean? I have to rely on, the farmer who's growing this crop in order to put food in the supermarket. Yes, you do. But ultimately, we have to essentially know that we have to rely that all these things are these are pawns. These people are all pawns that are being moved around by Hashem, by God. And what's happening is that Hashem is supervising these people. And if we rely on someone else and on a person or on a situation, then what happens is God says, okay, then I'm going to put you in the hands of that person. So ask yourself, if in the situations that you're in, either today or this week, should I rely on that person, or would I rather have my, put my hands in God? And by relying on a human being or relying on a particular situation, we're literally taking this situation out of the hands of Hashem, and we are trying to. We practically only see what we see in front of our eyes, and that is something that has to be completely stopped in order for us to achieve trust in God. When we say that everything that happens for a reason, everything that happens is in the hands of Hashem, you start reaching this supernatural approach. It's an approach that is above nature. It's an approach that not a lot of people have an easy time seeing, but eventually with time, as you repeat this process and you keep repeating, Hashem, please help me. I know you're here. I know I have trust in you. And you say this multiple times. In that situation, you'll see that ultimately Hashem runs the world. An example that is mentioned in this book is with Shalom Mordechai Rubashkin, who had a food business. Unfortunately, he was sentenced to 27 years in prison. What happened was, the sentence, they gave him no chances for appeal at some point, and only after many years did they finally agree to hear his case one more time. And it reduced his sentence to about 8 years. 8 years. After 8 years, he was released instead of a total of 27 years. That's unheard of. It was totally in the hands of Hashem. And he mentioned himself that I will trust in Hashem. I have my lawyers. He has to do his hishtadlut. You have to do your part. But ultimately, if the judge or the attorneys don't help and you get sentenced, you still have to trust that Hashem will be here to help you. And what's crazy about this is that had he had another chance to be seen again, because a lot of people prayed for him at that sentence, at that moment, and nothing happened. And he was denied and he had to go to jail and he was sentenced to 27 years. So all these people that prayed, if they asked themselves, why didn't we see any fruit from our prayers? It was because he had to go through that time in jail in order to see himself out much sooner, because had the judge even reduced it by 10 years, he would have been there, 17 years instead of 8 years. Because, once the judge gives you a reduced sentence, that's it, it's over. So instead, there was no response. And because there was no response, that's why he had a chance many years later to get a significantly reduced sentence. Look, I'm facing this right now. I have myself a few lawsuits that don't make any sense. I did the right thing that I believe was right, and yet I just have to, put my hands and put my trust in God and say, you know what, help me out with these things. I cannot get depressed over this. I cannot get let myself down and stop my ability to move forward and push forward just because this happens. So we basically have to completely remind ourselves that our tefillot are not being ignored. Everything that we're doing, our tefillahs, everything that we're asking Hashem, even though you're not seeing a response and immediate results right now, it doesn't mean that it's not being listened to. So take the time in your day and try in your prayer to ask Hashem for something that you want. Verbalize it. I do this in the Amidah. Go ahead and just verbalize to Hashem, please help me with such and such. And I can assure you that you're going to see miracles. Try this. Please, if this works, post in the comments, YouTube, Instagram, social media, like, subscribe. Have yourself an amazing Shabbos.